All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown, all three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Forest of Lost Souls by Dean Koontz. This is one of his more recent books. I think it just came out like 6 months ago. But anyway, let's talk about the cover first, because you know I love graphic design and cover illustration. This one's all right. It's big and bold with a wolf there. I mean, I do have every single Dean Koontz. We'll pan through the library. I've got every single Dean Koontz books over here on these two shelves. There's my first shelf of Dean Koontz and my second shelf of Dean Koontz. So I've got them all, everything he's ever written. But what do I think about this newest one, The Forest of Lost Souls? Well, first of all, on the back it says that this guy has sold over 500 million copies. I'm like, what in the hell? Oh my lord. 500 million copies in 38 languages. Like, that's pretty specific, 38. They just couldn't have rounded to 40. I don't know. But anyway, that's a shit ton of books that he sold. He probably has, pretty good nest egg for his retirement. But I don't think he's ever going to retire. This guy just keeps cranking out books. Now, another thing I noticed about this book is it's published by Thomas and Mercer, which is the publishing house that Amazon created. So you don't really find a lot of the Dean Koontz books in the Barnes and Nobles anymore, or anywhere like that, just because it's an Amazon product. And so for about the last 10 years, Dean Koontz has been publishing. Now, what I noticed with just aesthetics of this book that annoyed the out of me is this: whoever is the typesetter at Thomas and Mercer, they need to really get their shit together, because if you've ever used a word program, there's a thing called orphan control. And if your orphan control is on, that means that it doesn't leave like a partial sentence or a partial line dangling or something. But it makes the inside of the book look up beyond I'll get out. And if you don't know what orphan control is, I'm not going to just Google it. But it's almost makes the inside of this book look like it's been designed by an amateur, which I think it was. And but get rid of the orphan control, you dumbasses. It makes your thing look cheap and stupid. Nobody else does that. Every other book that's in my library, none of these other books in my library, some 6,000 books, have been typeset like that. You got to get a typesetter, Thomas and Mercer. And that's my rant. So this book opens. Now, I liked this book. Beyond that, I loved this book. It's actually, I think, kind of Dean Koontz's most literary piece of fiction. And this is his attempt at kind of almost a literary work. It opens with a mystery of the white albino mountain lion, which I Googled. And it's a real thing. I didn't know. Well, anyway, Vida is our main character. Her parents were killed when she was 5 years old, and she's been adopted by her great uncle. A 70-year-old guy adopts this girl, and but he's the only living relative, so that's why. But he takes her off into the mountains to live kind of a meager existence, a life of nature. And she becomes obsessed with the forest. She becomes especially obsessed with finding rocks and gemstones to polish and collect. And she makes some wolf friends. That's why there's a wolf. Kind of like Two Socks from Dances with Wolves. You know how Dances with Wolves, John Dunbar, not Dumb Bear, but John Dunbar, the Civil War soldier, goes out there and into the west, into the Dakotas, and he meets the wolf Two Socks. It's kind of like this. It's kind of like got that kind of vibe to it. So the book itself, like I said, it's kind of got a few literary tricks of the trade to it. Like, and this book goes back and forth in time a little bit, from when she's a little girl to an adult to the middle part of the book. It's like it's all over the place. And it's kind of like as it travels through time, as we watch this girl as a youngster and then as an adult, we find out that she's got this boyfriend that we meet back and forth in time here and there, and his name's Jose. Love of her life. And a local hero. He's kind of a local hero in the village that's near this place where she lives. But he dies. I mean, it's on the back that he dies. I mean, it's part of the. He dies in a tragic accident. But that's the thrust of the book. Was it an accident? And it seems like the powers that be in the nearby town, which is called Kettleton, I think it's called Kettleton, Colorado. No, is it Colorado? No, it's Oregon or Washington. Either way, it's a small town. And she lives outside of the town a little bit. But anyway, was her boyfriend killed or was it an accident? And why do the powers that be that are in this town also want Vida dead too? They want her gone. She's not hurt anybody. She's just doing her thing, collecting rocks and polishing them. And playing with her spirit animals out in the woods. It was very well written. There's some turns of phrase in here that Dean Koontz put in that I really appreciated. But I was going to read the last two sentences of the let's see. I wanted to read. What did I want to read on the back here? So, one by one. So I talked about the people in the town wanting her dead. One by one they come for her, prepared to do anything to see their plans through to their evil ends. But what are their plans, and what would the evil ends be? Vida is no less prepared for them. Vida, the forest, and its formidable wonders are awaiting. She will not rest until goodness and order have been restored. I think that's one thing about Dean Koontz' novel that's a little bit different than most other horror writers, like even Stephen King. It's kind of like the goodness of people always kind of shines through. It's always kind of got an ending that makes you feel kind of good about yourself. That's kind of one of the things that Louis L'Amour in his westerns does. He's always got bravery and honor and people like that in it. And I think Dean Koontz does the same thing very well. Whereas a lot of horror novels can just be full of a lot of awful people. I also like that. But this is a good book. I really actually quite enjoyed this. I'm going to give this a 9.5 out of 10. It was a very, very, very good read.